What's up, everyone? I'm Cameron. I'm here with my co-host Jason Devenish. He's the youth pastor of Revive Youth.
Hey guys.
Yeah. Actually, just to bring it out there, is that I actually advertised this podcast weeks ago because we did record it, but a lot of technical difficulties, so I do apologize for the late podcast. It should have came out much earlier. But yeah, we decided to call the podcast the Shack Up Podcast. Jason, would you like to tell us why?
So basically, we were busy setting up our very first one. I was so excited for this. When we first set up, it looked so cool. We had like mics hanging over here, and it looked like a proper setup.
It looked professional.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let that get me touched. So anyway, I was on my way back from the hall one afternoon, and it was while we were setting up, and I just was like, this should be called the Shack Up Show because it's a shack up.
Yeah,
literally.
So we did the first podcast on a Friday, which is just before youth. That's why we literally do it like an hour before youth.
Yeah, so then within like 45 minutes, it's ready for youth again.
Yeah. So we just gotta pack away and get to youth. So
yeah, no, it's pretty cool.
That's why I'm calling it the Shack Up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had technical difficulties. Had to record that like 4 times. Still didn't work out. So yeah, that's done. But today, what we were wanting to do was,
this is like so messed up, We recorded 4 times, and we set up every time that we did that as well, might I add.
Yeah, and it was a bit frustrating having the same conversation each time. But anyway, to get into the main topic, what we're discussing today is something I did also want to say for the audience out there who are watching. The purpose of this podcast is basically to discuss controversial topics within the Christian community, also to discuss topics that people are not too sure about, that may have like several questions, and we're just here to clarify things, discuss it, and also figure out things for ourselves. So that is the purpose of this podcast, and I hope you guys enjoy it. The topic that I decided to get into today is the reality of being a pastor. The reason why I chose this is because I feel in the church, we kind of view pastors as these perfect people who can't mess up. And just because they're pastors, suddenly like their lives are, like God has got them covered, nothing bad's gonna happen to them. And then if they do mess up, it's like, how dare they? And I feel like as the Christian community, we become very judgmental towards them, and we don't treat them in a fair way. So Jason is our youth pastor at Revive, and that's why I just wanted to ask you a few questions of what it's like to be a pastor.
Cool, yeah.
But I think the first question I did want to ask you is, when did you realize you wanted to become a pastor, a youth pastor, and why?
There wasn't a day that I decided like, today's the day I'm going to be a pastor.
Yeah.
Well, not that today's the day I'm going to be a pastor, but like today I've decided that is what I'm going to do. I think I always wanted to be a pastor, there was something attractive about the ministry to me. I know that sounds weird. Like
I actually get you.
Yeah, a lot of young people look at church life and they're like, but that's their thing. That's not for me.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways I was there, but in other ways it was normal for me to want to be a pastor, to consider being a pastor. And I'm going to come out on something that's very funny and embarrassing. I've never told anyone this.
Okay.
So you and whoever watches this, they're going to be the first people to hear this. It's relatively embarrassing. So I told you guys, when we were having our conversation earlier about youth groups, that I've never had a youth group. Yeah. I've never been involved. Well, not never. Our youth ministry started in 2010, roughly. Everything awesome happened in 2010.
That's true.
Yeah.
World Cup.
So awesome. I had a lot of friends because I went to a Christian school. Christian, and I had a lot of friends there who were going to churches and stuff, so I'd go to youth groups with them. But deep down I think I always wanted my own youth ministry here, but I didn't know what that looked like. I'd seen different models of youth ministry, and I saw what youth looked like at this church, and I saw what youth looked like at that church, but I just had these crazy ideas. And I think I was in grade 5. around there. So I wasn't even in the Christian school yet. It was actually my friends at Wendwood Primary next door that I'd gone to youth with. I think I was like grade 5 or so. And I took all my teddy bears, put them on my bed, and I ran a youth service for them, and I preached it.
Really? That is so interesting. Would you like some tea, Mrs. Nesbit?
Buzz!
It's so nice you could join us on such late notice.
Oh, no.
I look back now and I'm like, maybe that was in a way God like getting me ready, and like it would be a funny story to look back at and be like, ha ha ha, the pastor was always there. But when I really decided that ministry is what I wanted to pursue was in grade 11. The day I became a Christian was the day I was like, the dream that I'm pursuing is unrealistic. I wanted to be a veterinarian for wild animals, and my maths and physics marks, they needed a veterinarian themselves. They were done, dude.
Yeah, don't worry.
My marks were exhausted.
Mine as well, dude.
So it kind of worked well. I was like, maybe they were, dude. That's the best I can put it. So maybe I should consider the ministry, but it wasn't. You know, I've made a joke with Megan a few times where I said to her, no, I failed into the ministry, in the sense that I failed at school. Well, I didn't do well. So
maybe it was God, dude. Maybe he just like made you fail so that you went in this direction.
Well, I really hope that there's like really intelligent people out there. Please, like, we need you in the ministry as well. Please don't think that you have to fail school to come into the ministry. But I definitely didn't choose the church because I was failing. I wasn't like, well, being a pastor is the easy way out.
I get you.
But it was like a hidden passion that I had no idea that I had. And the day I became a Christian, it's like God helped me to realize that passion, and He helped me.
Clarified it.
100%. So when I became a Christian, I was like, all I want to do is preach the gospel. All I want to do is lead young people. At that point, I was like, I'm going to be a youth pastor. I mean, now today, I'd love to think that in a couple of years' time I'll lead a church and stuff like that. Not necessarily a youth ministry, but I still love youth ministry, and I'm so glad I haven't grown out of it. A lot of guys my age, you know, they start out, they do it for 2 or 3 years, they get tired and they leave.
What made you like go for youth in particular, like the youth ministry, besides any of the other ministries?
I think I know that I have a way with teenagers. I just have a way with young people. I think in some ways it's an excuse for me not to grow up. If I'm the youth pastor, I have an excuse to clown around.
That's true.
I love young people, and it's an age group that's very neglected in the church. Just because there's a youth ministry doesn't mean that it's not a neglected area. I think young people, like children, but teenagers particularly, are very neglected.
I feel like adults feel like there's no hope in teenagers, as if like.
Bro, I'm a youth pastor, and I feel like that sometimes. So just the day that I became a Christian was the day that I decided, not because of my marks or anything else, it's almost like God helped me to realize I'm going to go into ministry, and being a pastor is what I want to do with my life. So that was grade 11, 2012, April.
That's cool, dude. Yeah, I know, because I know like some pastors it only happens later on in their life, so it's pretty cool that you got that.
Yeah, some guys go and like study law, study whatever, and they go and work.
Then they realize
and in some ways that's a benefit. I mean, a lot of guys have life experience because of it. You know, they've worked in the real world, and I'm like, I party with the real world. You know, you're like, I don't really party, but you know what I mean.
I just sit at home watching Netflix, and
Netflix is my real
I don't really
world.
do anything. It's also my world. Thank you, Netflix. Thank you so much. The next question that I have is, what are the general stereotypes of pastors? Like the type of people, the type of person that people think that you are, the type of life you're living. Because I won't lie, even like when I was younger, not even younger, like I feel even like last year, maybe the year before that even, it's like when you see a pastor, it's like you expect them to never fail. Like they're not allowed to fail. God has put them in that position. They can't mess up. They have to basically be a perfect human being. But it's not like they must. You just believe, like as the church community, they're already that type of person. So what would you say, like the stereotypes, I guess, that you faced, like from people, like when they've met you, the way they speak to you? Have you faced times where like you know, you kind of messed up in something, and the way people have treated you and stuff?
Yeah, so I think that there are a couple of stereotypes. The one is that you're going to judge them.
Yeah.
I think that's the most hurtful one. I think people assume that because you're a pastor and because you are this perfect person, that they can't share their flaws with you. And I think why that hurts is that people will accuse pastors of thinking that they're perfect. People will say like, oh, Mr. Pastor, Mr. Christian, you're so perfect, what. And I'm just like, you haven't even given me a chance to tell you that what you're going through, I'm going through the exact same thing, and I don't know who to tell. So I think my biggest struggle, and in some ways it started in school when I told guys that I want to be a pastor. It wasn't even actually that like, that I was a Christian, but I wanted to be a pastor. It was, the guys just stopped telling me things. They didn't want to tell me that they were sleeping with their girlfriends because Jay's going to judge me. Like, I'm not going to judge you because I know that you don't live. We have a different moral code.
I guess you can say like you don't have to agree with them, but it's not like you're judging them either.
And like I know that you're not a Christian, and I know that you're not interested in Jesus, so I'm not going to tell you that what you're doing is wrong and you change your life. So I think the one stereotype is that pastors will judge you because we think we're better than, and I know that there's pastors out there that think that they are, but
I think they've kind of also created that culture. I'd say there are a lot of pastors who judge, and I don't think they show the compassion that Jesus showed.
And I think there's actually a lot of security in telling people that you're not perfect, because the reason why it comes off as such a surprise when the pastor messes up, the pastor's getting divorced, the pastor was caught watching porn, the pastor was caught smoking weed, I don't know, I'm just using examples, but everyone's just like, how can he do that? And you have people leaving the church because no, he was my mentor, he was my role model, and him messing up, like, well, Christianity must be false. That indicates a few things. The first thing is that your pastor gave off this image that he was perfect, and he was wrong for doing that. So when the pastor communicates clearly that I am not perfect, it's a lot less of a surprise when he messes up. So I'm not saying that like it then makes it okay. Like, the pastor needs to lead from the front. If he's going to preach that divorce is wrong, dude, don't get divorced. Like, you work through your marriage. But at the same time, like, he's human. He's a sinner. That's why he needs Jesus. But pastors are scared to show people that they're broken. They're scared to show people that they're messed up. But on top of that, people who leave the church because the pastor fell, it shows me that you weren't following Jesus, you were following the pastor, because Jesus never fell. Jesus didn't let you down. The pastor did, but not Jesus. And if you're a church for the pastor, when the pastor falls, your faith will fall, because your faith is in him. So I think the stereotype, one of them is that pastors are perfect, they think they're perfect, and I think it goes both ways. I hate the stereotype of pastors are perfect because I know I'm not, and I also hate the stereotype of pastors will judge you, because I mean, maybe other pastors will. I can't speak for them, but I know I won't, because I know that I'm broken, I know that I'm damaged, I know that I'm in need of a savior. That's why I became a Christian. And my heart breaks when I see people feel judged by the church, because then I'm thinking, is the church really doing what it should be doing? So that's the one. The other one, and I don't know if this is a stereotype or just an assumption, like a bad assumption, irritates the living daylights out of me. Our teens do this. Yo, if you're in your Revive youth group, you better listen up.
Stop, fam.
Like, just listen to this. Listen to this. I don't live at the church. One of the assumptions, I've had so many young people on a Friday night to be like, yo, Jay, are you here tomorrow? I'm like, what day is tomorrow? Because I know it's Saturday, but I'm like, what day is tomorrow? And they're like, it's Saturday. So I just look at them like, yeah, it's Saturday. So answer the question before I kill you. Am I here tomorrow? And they're just like, they look at you with that like, yeah, and it's Saturday, but sorry, Jay, I don't get what you. Are you here tomorrow, Jay? I was like, bro, I have a life.
I think that could also be a stereotype.
Like they live at the church.
Christians who take it serious as well. Like, they're always in the church, they don't have any other life at all.
The other thing is public holidays. Do you know how many times I've been asked, like, there's a public holiday and Oaks are like, Jay, are you here tomorrow? And I'm like, why aren't you at school tomorrow? No, it's a public holiday.
Yeah, no, that's hectic, dude.
Like, just follow where you're going with that.
Yeah.
So, like, I think the assumption that I'm getting at there that irritates me is that I live here. It's like,
you don't.
Yeah, I'm here a lot, but that's how work
But that's your
works.
It is your workplace.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like telling an adult, like,
Exactly.
who's working like at a office or something, like, are you going to be on Saturday? Like, this is your workplace. Same rules apply.
Yeah. I mean, on the flip side, actually, the other stereotype, and this is a stereotype that I hate, is that pastors only work on Sundays.
Yeah.
There are so many people that think that being a pastor and ministry is easy because you only work on Sundays, and what, you just have to prepare a talk every week.
Yeah, well, I believe that through the majority of my life. Yeah,
I did
thought it was
too.
just
I was
Sunday,
like,
they just get up on a stage and preach, and that was it.
So I knew that they worked, but I didn't think the work was hard. I was like, you literally sit in the office and prepare a sermon. What more is there?
And you have like an entire week to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that is so bliss. And then when I started working here, like, that is actually, unfortunately, it's the thing that you spend not the least amount of time, but definitely less than admin. And that's why I'm always trying to like build ministries up and hand them over, because I don't want to be doing that. I'm here to preach. But yeah, the stereotype of the pastor's always here versus the pastor's only here on a Sunday and that's all he does and he gets paid a full salary for it. Like, I hate those stereotypes. I hate those assumptions. So yeah, I'd say those are the...
But like something I'd also want to touch on is like, just because we're saying like, you know, a pastor does mess up, we're not trying to say it's okay if they have that mentality of like, oh then okay, I can just
everyone knows I'm a sinner, so I can keep sinning.
I can smoke weed on the stage, I can you know, do whatever I want type of thing. But however, there was this one situation of this pastor of like a mega church, and they found out that he was, I think, an alcoholic and stuff, and he had kept it a secret. And I don't know the exact story, but then he had to step down.
Sure.
And then he actually got his life in order and everything proper, like not lying and stuff. He actually got it in order, and when he tried to come back, they didn't let him back. And I just wanted to ask, like, so now he had to start another church now, but my thing is like, what? I know it might be a bit controversial what could happen, because some people may believe like, okay, you mess up in that position, you're not allowed to have a second chance. But do you believe like, if you actually do get your life in order, you can go back to your old position, or more like you have to work your way up again? He started the church, by the way, like he got kicked out of his own church.
I think in many ways that's right though, because the pastor's got to set a standard. And I think, you know, with leadership is whatever's happening at the top is going to happen at the bottom, because it filters down. So if your pastors are drunk, you know, you're going to see people in the church taking that lightly, because they all know, well, that's what the pastor does, and he gets away with it. True. But my response to that is, I mean, look, that's a very tricky situation. It's a very tricky topic, actually, of, you know, when a pastor's really messed up, like when a guy's stolen money, when a guy has committed adultery, when he has been caught abusing some sort of substance, or, you know, maybe he's got a gambling issue. The problem isn't that he's sinned so badly that he can't come back. Like, that sin has made his soul so black that he cannot do anything.
Come back,
The issue is integrity and compromise. What he's done is he's compromised his position. Now, every time people look at him, there's going to be that subconscious thing of, I wonder if he's still... Or have you heard that this is what the pastor does? So I think there has to be grace. So I mean, to be honest with you, as a young guy in the ministry, that's a very difficult thing to think of, because I would like to think that I think it does depend on the nature of it. You know, if it's substance abuse, if the guy's gone to rehab and he's gotten the help and he's doing better, and you know, he's repenting, and you can see that he's repenting, he's turned his life around, and he's really making an effort to turn away from his sin, and he's not using anymore, then yes, I think he can come back, work in the church, maybe preach every now and again, but I don't think he can lead the church again. I think that
makes sense.
Yeah, I'd be very careful, but you can also, I don't want to hurt someone in that. You know, you don't want to hurt someone and like, well, you sin, so get out and never come back, because that is not what the church is.
I would say like, I don't think he's... not fit, maybe, I don't know if that's the right term to use, to lead the entire church, but by not allowing him back at all, it's kind of making him believe that that's not defined him.
And that's not the Bible though, hey? Like, I mean, if you look at Peter, he denied Jesus 3 times. And Jesus reinstates him
Yeah,
and
no,
it's
I
quite
mean,
an incredible story.
It's the concept also of forgiveness and
100%.
yeah.
So I think I
just thought it was an interesting article. I don't mean to put that on you, such a heavy topic.
It's cool.
But I just saw it as an interesting topic. In terms of the next question is, what is it like in reality, like the stress, and the hardships that you face, and has it affected your mental health, like just being a pastor in general?
Yeah. So in reality, you're working with volunteers.
Yeah.
So when people don't pitch up, you can't go to them and be like, what the hell's your problem?
Yeah.
Why weren't you there? Why are you late? Because they're going to leave, but you need volunteers. I can't run this place on my own, and Tom can't run this place on his own, and the council can't run this place on their own. You know, as much as we'd all love to not rely on volunteers and not have to rely on stupid things, in the sense of like, not that people are stupid things. What I mean is, that sounded so wrong.
Not what you meant, don't worry.
You stupid.
No, not.
What's 9 plus 10?
21.
You stupid.
You know, like, I would love to not have to rely on technology. I would love to not have to rely on companies. I mean, companies don't deliver on time. When you need them to deliver, they don't. So what I'm saying is that I think working in a volunteer system and church, it's horrible, because the volunteer that you're trying to work with, you're trying to disciple and you're trying to teach them the Bible at the same time. So when the volunteer is not pulling their weight, you go in there and you say, listen, you need to pull yourself right, because you agreed to do this. Why aren't you doing it properly? Then it compromises your relationship with them. It becomes a lot harder to sit down and talk about the Bible and say, I love you, and Jesus loves you, and he cares about you. Because in the back of their mind, they're like, but you just like, you went at me because I don't have the time to do this ministry. But what people forget is that they volunteer their time, and then all of a sudden, you know, they've given their time to this ministry and they've said that they're willing to do it, but they don't.
Yeah, they have that stereotype sometimes that like all pastors should be nice, but then there are moments like with your other leaders where you have to confront them about certain things, and it's not like you're being mean, but it's more like you can no longer be like nice and kind. You have to kind of be quite confrontational.
Yeah, the thing is, nice never gets the message across.
Yeah.
Like, hey, how are you doing? I've noticed you haven't been around for a while, and I don't know if you've noticed, but you've been on the roster, you know, 3 times while you've been away.
Yeah.
You didn't arrange for someone to swap out with you. Is everything okay? Then they just think like every single time they haven't been there, like I'm going to come up to them all nice. So I usually work in 3s. The first one, I'll go, hey, might even take someone for a cup of coffee or a milkshake or something. Second time, I'll be like, look, we've spoken about this. What's going on? Third time, I'll go up to them and say, right, if you don't pull your weight, I'm taking this ministry from you. Or if you don't pull your weight, I'm pulling you from the ministry. And that's difficult. But I think at that point, you realize that that person's becoming more of a burden to the ministry than a blessing. And I think in which case, you know, then you can't have burdens running around on the ministry. The ministry itself is a burden already. You can't have people on the team who aren't pulling their weight, because they become dead weight. It's like everyone trying to pull a net, right? And each person in the ministry has taken a corner, like this table. They've taken a corner and they're pulling it and stretching it. And the better it stretches, the better it functions. But then the people who don't pull their weight, like it starts to stretch funny, and they might as well go and sit in the middle, and we have to pick them up as well. So you're carrying their weight, and the ministry then doesn't function properly.
Like, does that cause you stress, basically?
So much. It's really stressful. On a Sunday, you don't know who's going to pitch up and who isn't. You don't know if people are going to rock up when they should.
Yeah.
On a Friday, I don't know if people are going to arrive, if they're going to arrive on time, if they're going to do the job properly. That's the other thing. As a pastor, you know how you want the job done. So you don't know if they're going to do the job. You don't know if they're going to pull their weight, if they
can create like anxiety and etc.
So yeah, I think the other thing is you're very alone. You know, we're going to chat about this in another podcast, but being a Christian is lonely, and following Christ is lonely, but being a pastor is another level of lonely. I mean, the funny thing is, like, there's guys who are involved in the church, volunteers. they'll come and suggest things or say things or sort of assume things and imply things. And as the pastor, you just look at them and you think, but you don't work here, so you actually don't realize why that's not going to work. You don't realize how difficult this is. You don't realize what this is like. It's really like, I wish I could go back to myself 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and just say, get ready for the ride of your life, because this is going to be difficult. And I mean, you know, I've had mental health issues. I battle with anxiety. I thank God that I don't struggle with it half as much as I used to. But 2017, end of 2016 and pretty much the whole of 2017, I was convinced that at some point I was going to kill myself. And I don't say that lightly. I'm not just saying that for emphasis, or there were many times when I would think through how I would do it. You just feel so useless. And to be honest, the church is a very political environment as well. There's a lot of politics going on, a lot of people, and it's so discouraging. As a young person coming into the ministry, you expect that because you're working with Christians, it's going to be easy and it's going to be great. But you come into the ministry and there's politics, there's people's opinions, and ultimately there's sin. And not necessarily, I'm not saying in the staff team there's sin, but you're dealing with sinners. And it's people who are going to disagree with each other, and they're going to disagree strongly. People who smile and shake hands with each other on a Sunday, and then interact very differently in meetings. And it's not to say that they hate each other and they're just smiling and greeting. Like, I think that's where I've grown a lot as a person, is seeing people that I look up to go into these meetings, disagree very strongly, and walk out of the meeting loving one another. And that's encouraging. But it's very tiring being in that meeting and you're like trying to think, like, how are we going to get to the bottom of this? Because we're all disagreeing here. So,
and also in terms that I wanted to touch on is like also the mental health things that you were suffering with. I'm sure it also wasn't easy to go to people about it, because I feel also, I mean, even bringing it up, like, I'm sure lots of Christians can still judge you for that as well. Like, you know, your pastor, how is it possible that you're facing these things, you know? Did you find it hard to talk about it, or?
So I think there's that assumption of, you know, if you've got depression, it means you're not trusting God with everything. If you've got depression, you're not finding your joy in the Lord. And if you've got anxiety, you're not trusting God. So I think, you know, I'll pray about something and I picture someone losing their mind at me. But I'll still pray and say, God, I trust you. I pray that you'd soften their hearts, that you would ready them for the conversation I'm going to have with them, that they won't respond in a way that's going to hurt me or them, that we'll both leave this meeting feeling better about the whole situation. And every time I've prayed that, I still have anxiety, but there's the anxious side of my mind which says, this is going to go badly. Then there's the logical side of my mind which says, but I can trust God and know that He's got a plan.
Yeah, no, I know, like, even in my prayers, it's like, it's hard to control your thoughts, especially anxious thoughts. Like, it just appears, and it plants that seed that of like, what's going to happen, this,
and it develops.
And it develops over time, and that's the thing. Like, I've even found myself trusting God, but the anxiety doesn't necessarily go away. You can kind of counter it. So like when it comes, you have to remind yourself, let me trust God, let me trust God. But it, like, the full anxiety away, basically. And I feel like lots of people don't understand that.
So I mean, there's a lot of things that give me anxiety in the ministry or add to my anxiety. You know, one of them is my future. You know, the church is a risky place. I love my work, I love what I do, and I do think that God can use me. But you know, if you're in a church that's not growing, like, how am I going to provide for my family? It's scary, and I picture a future that might not be realistic, but the future I picture is me struggling constantly financially with my family, and my family suffering because of my career choice, and that's scary. Like, I don't want my kids to hate me, and I don't want my kids to have a problem with me because, Daddy, you chose this career, and now because you chose that, I can't go to X school. I can't get a car when all my friends are getting cars. Dad, because you chose this career, my friends make fun of me at school. So like I'm terrified about how this is going to affect my family. And I'm always praying for my family. I mean, I don't have one, but I know that God knows my family, and I just constantly pray for my family and just pray that God would like always show me how to be a husband and a father before he shows me how to be a pastor, because I want to love my wife and my kids and serve them first before I serve the church here. Because as a husband, your immediate church is your home. But I'm so anxious about what the future holds. And I think that really is part of like ministry. That is part of
something I would say is like, even I think every person in the Bible, not every person, but maybe even majority of the characters in the Bible, I feel like they probably felt the same way you did. They didn't know what the future held for them, but I think something you can find comfort in is God always carried them through.
100%.
Who am I to lead these people? They'll never believe me, they won't even listen. Moses, I shall be with you when you go to the king of Egypt. But Pharaoh will not listen.
I mean, even if it ended up in like them dying at the end, God was always with them till the end.
But the death is the glorious part. I know that sounds so depressing, but like
dog, dude.
Yeah, like I mean, Jesus, his own son died, but he returned to his Father in glory. And
something I would also say is that I think they all fulfill the purpose as well.
Yeah.
And something I've learned as well is that success is dependent on what you find value in. So, for example, like, how would you define success? Like, some people it may be money, so they'll be focusing on that the entire time. But if your definition of success is to bring people to God, even though it's like scary to see, like, you know, what does the future hold for me? I mean, if through the youth ministry now you've brought people to Christ, you are successful currently. I don't know if you agree with that or disagree. You can disagree.
I think people have come to know Jesus through the ministry that I've started and that I've been involved in and that I've led. I've never personally brought anyone to Christ, in the sense that I preach and I mentor and I encourage and I pray that people come to know Him. Success in my mind is, I want a church that looks like the church in Acts chapter 2. If I think of what success as a pastor looks like, it looks like that. Just a community of people who love each other, who share with one another, and who study the Word together. Like, that's what I want. I want a church of just a church that's buzzing all the time, but not buzzing because of finances, not buzzing because they have smoke machines, not buzzing because they got these cool lights. No, I want a church that's buzzing because the people inside it are just so loving, energetic, excited, and passionate about the gospel. And they're passionate because, not because my preaching is what's fed their passion, but their passion is fueled by, I love Jesus and I'm so glad that I know Him and I want everyone else to know Him. And I love my brothers and sisters in Christ. I love my brothers and sisters who love Jesus. I think that is, for me, success is, I mean, even if it's a church of 50 people and it's doing that, it's successful. I would like to have a bigger church than 50. I think part of that is my human tendency, my human wants and my human desires.
Which we did discuss in the other podcast that didn't work out.
Which will still be coming your way. We just needed to take a mental break from that thing, because I made the same joke like 5 times. And I still thought it was funny. Cameron told me it was old, but anyway. But that's the thing, is like, for me, success as a church is not necessarily that you fly from one church to another in your own private jet. For me, success is that everyone in your church, they love one another, they love their community, and your church is making an impact in the community, not just for Christ, but for Christ ultimately. Because I think a lot of churches are like, no, our presence here, we're sharing the gospel, and that's all we need to give to the community. I think wherever there's a church, that community should be flourishing, because the church is constantly giving to the community and serving in the community. And the people who go to that church are always giving and serving the community, giving to and serving the community.
So I'm also not sure if you feel this way, but I feel like in order to achieve that goal, God needs to train you. To get to that point. And I'm not sure, I can't speak for God, but I would say like maybe your time even being here, even through the hardships that you're facing and everything, could be Him preparing you for something like that. Because I mean, I would say for pastors all around, that is a hard thing to achieve in the church. It's not easy.
I think every single I think everything that you go through is God preparing you for the future, which is terrifying. Because if I think about some of the things I've gone through, I'm like, I wanted to kill myself then. What do you think is going to happen when I go through the next thing?
Like, what is the
100%. So I am terrified of the future. You know, I'm scared of losing certain people. I'm scared of. There's just so many things to be scared of, right? Honestly speaking, but I think ultimately, I think every human being should be aiming to better themselves. So, I mean, I'm trying to read more. For those of you who don't know, I hate reading. Well, I say I hate reading. I used to. I actually don't mind it anymore, but
I still hate reading.
I still prefer doing other things. You know, I wasn't joking when I said that my party is Netflix. I think I need to cut down on how much Netflix I watch and how much time I spend on YouTube and Facebook. Or maybe not how much time I spend on YouTube, but what I'm doing with the time on YouTube. Because there's a lot of awesome content on YouTube.
That's true.
I mean, you know, I like the guys like Matt Diavella, and there's a couple other guys who aren't necessarily Christian, but just the stuff that they give on leadership, the stuff that they give on self-improvement, it's all encouraging. And I think as a pastor, I would like to actually challenge every other young pastor out there. Always aim to improve yourself. Always listen to other preachers, watch other preachers, watch how they preach. But I think, read books. Read books. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of non-Christian influences. Seriously.
Yeah,
I think,
just because they're not Christian doesn't mean there's no value.
There is a wealth of knowledge out there. And I mean, I would love to see some of the guys that I follow come to Christ. But I mean, at the moment, they are releasing some powerful stuff when it comes to leadership. Stuff that we can learn from, because the people that are coming to our church on a Sunday, these are the guys that are leading them in the week in their workplaces. Yeah. So I'm not saying come and lead people like you would lead a workplace, but if that's how that guy is working or if that's how that guy is serving, I wouldn't even say serving, because entrepreneurs don't really serve. Yeah. But if that's how that guy's treating his employees, and there's a positive work environment, he's doing something right. And people are following him, not because they're paid by him necessarily. Richard Branson, for example, people don't work well under him because he pays them well. They work well under him because he's a good leader. So there's stuff to learn from him. And I think part of my journey to, a better mental state, and part of my journey to, how do I put this, just being better and being the best that I can mentally, spiritually, physically, it's just, you've got to pursue personal growth, and God will grow you through hard times, but you've also got to work through the hard times. So yeah.
Get you. And then to the next question, through all the challenges that you face, do you still find it rewarding?
The short answer is yes, I do. Yeah. But the long answer is, there's days where you just think, I say days, there's weeks where you just think, why do I allow myself to go through this? And, I work the hours that I do and I get paid X. And that's not a shot at our church. I understand that currently financially our church can't do more for me, but I know that if I had to take myself elsewhere and work just as hard, I could probably go further career-wise.
And being here.
And it's amazing, like the day I start feeling discouraged, or when I'm going through a really difficult patch, not long after that, someone will come along and be like, Jay, you did XYZ and it just encouraged me. You said XYZ and it just encouraged me. Or people come to me and just say like, Jay, I don't think anyone's told you this in a long time, but you're doing a really great job. We really appreciate you. And like immediately, the first thing I think is, actually, this is worth it. But nothing makes it more worth it when you see, in my case, a young person pick up the Bible and say, I finally get it. Like just you put in so much work, and all of a sudden when that person says, I get it, I want to follow Jesus, all of a sudden it just feels so worth it. Everything feels worth it. It's such a great feeling. So yes, it is rewarding. It's definitely probably one of the most, if you're a Christian. If you're not a Christian, this might not make sense to you, but if you are a Christian, this is definitely one of the most rewarding things to do, despite mental health issues and you know, maybe not the greatest salaries and stuff. It's such a blessing to work with God's word week in and week out, and to work with his people, and you get paid to serve his people. Like, that's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah,
I get you. And then I guess kind of to tie it up, or even like it kind of links to the previous question as well. It's like, what would you tell somebody who's considering going into ministry or becoming a pastor, or who like aspires to become a pastor? Like, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think if you're still in school, go to your pastor and ask him if you can serve there over your school holidays. I'm not talking like a day or two of community service. It's not the same.
Yeah.
Your church's holiday club doesn't count. Serving in the youth ministry on a Friday or a Wednesday or whatever your church doesn't count. Go and say, can I work here for 3 weeks? Or for 2 weeks, or whatever, however long your holiday is, and go and do that for a year. Every holiday, just go and commit 3/4 of your holiday to working in the church and volunteering there. And I think already then that should give you a bigger insight. But the one heads up I want to give all young people is that my difficulty in ministry only started 3 years in, and that was because I was finally responsible for a ministry. I was responsible for a group of people. When you aren't responsible for things, you know, when I worked in my first 2 years, I did a lot of admin, and I picked up the pieces, I played drums in church. Like, there's nothing, you know, if any of those things went wrong, it wasn't on me, because I was under someone else. But when I was given the youth ministry, you know, if that ministry started shrinking and kids stopped coming, or people found out that teenagers were making out in the dark, and people found out all sorts of other things, you know, that's on you. So I would say that I would encourage every young person to stop thinking stupidly about ministry and think realistically. Stop thinking that it's just a Sunday job. Stop thinking that all you do is preach. Stop thinking that all you do is play drums or guitar in ministry. Just stop thinking unrealistically and start thinking realistically. There's deadlines in ministry, just like there are in the real world.
Yeah.
There's people's emotions. You know, when you're in the workplace, if you're employing someone and they mess it up, you can have at them and you can
fire them. Yeah.
You can whatever, like, who cares, we just hire someone else, and you can talk to them however you want. In the ministry, you can't do that. The other thing is, in the workplace, people have issues, right? Some woman comes to work crying. Okay, Rachel, like, sort yourself out.
Come on, Karen.
Go to the bathroom. You've got 10 minutes.
I mean, you're my real.
Go clean yourself up. I want that report on my desk in the next 2 hours. Like, your issues at home are not my issues at work. Exactly. So as a boss, I know there are bosses and leaders out there who do care about their employees, and props to them. That's awesome. But a lot of the guys don't, because they don't have to. So
I put it as like, work is the priority. What gets done is the priority.
Exactly.
And maybe like in the church, it's more about people now.
Exactly. Whereas here, you've actually got to care about what people are going through. You know, no one phones their boss and says, my dad died. And the boss, I'll be there now. Like, the boss is like, okay, I have the day off tomorrow. I'll see you on Wednesday. Boss doesn't care. But, you know, in the ministry, your heart breaks for people on so many levels. You know, when they're going through a tough time, or when someone they love is going through a tough time, and you've got to counsel people through things. When your ministry isn't doing well, that is so hard for you, because you start thinking, God doesn't want to work through me. And I mean, you've got to care about people and their faith. So you hear people, you see people lifting their hands in praise and worship, and oh, praise God, He's so amazing, and you know, you're a good father, and like hands are up, and they walk out, and you hear the same person who just had their hand up in praise and worship drop the F-bomb, and clearly not care about their faith. And you realize that a lot of it is just a thing that we do. It's not something that people believe, and you've got to remind yourself that just because people are giving you the right answers, and just because people are lifting their hands in praise and worship, doesn't mean that they believe and that they truly believe in Jesus. So my heads up to you as a young person is to investigate ministry, think properly about it, and think realistically. Realistically, nothing in life is easy, not even being a pastor. But I think being a pastor is actually one of the most difficult things out there, and people just don't know it. Yeah, I think that's the advice I'd give to someone considering the ministry.
Well, Jason, thank you for letting me interview you.
Awesome.
And answering those tough questions. I did find it really insightful, and I hope all of you guys found it insightful as well. So yeah, just to close off, please catch us the next time. Please subscribe, like, comment what types of topics you guys would like us to discuss, and what you enjoyed about the video, what you didn't enjoy about the video. But this video is perfect, so you don't need to.
You don't have to tell us what you didn't enjoy, because it's a lot more difficult actually sitting here.
It's also non-Christian to say anything bad. You know, I'm just kidding. But
Jesus won't love you. No, I'm just kidding. But the other thing, guys, is please do subscribe and hit that bell button next to the subscribe button, because we've got some awesome topics coming up. I mean, we're gonna be chatting about abortion. We're gonna chat about homosexuality. We're gonna have guys come on here, guest speakers come on here, and we can chat us about finances. I mean, I know that as a young person, I was never taught about finances.
Yeah, me neither. The one time I went to this budgeting conference, and it literally shattered me. Like I didn't understand the concept of finances as an adult or anything. So I mean, I found it interesting. I think you guys will find it interesting as well.
And the best time to start managing your finances is like as you come out of school and you start working in your first job. That's when you should start saving and start budgeting properly. So we're gonna have a guy come on here, and he's gonna chat to you about budgeting and what that's gonna look like. And guys, we've got a lot of content lined up for you on the Shack Up Show, and we want you to enjoy it. But if you've got any questions about Christianity, if you've got any issues with pastors, drop them in the comments. I'd love to address those and chat about them, because I also, like, pastors can be really cringy at times. And if you are not a Christian and you're still watching this, first of all, congratulations. And second of all, I don't know why it is that you don't believe, but if it's because a Christian has hurt you, or because a pastor has done something or said something, I'm so sorry. And I mean, you can feel free to drop however you feel in the comments, and we'd be happy to respond to you and get in touch. But yeah, I'm excited for the next episodes.
Yeah, and also congratulations if you did also get the spawn to the video. Like, thank you.
I'll even give you a I'm clapping like that because the microphone's over there, so I just want you to
But but thanks for watching.
Right
then, eh?
We are done.
But I'll check you guys next time.
Hey.